I would say that my 5 years at IIT Kanpur as the PhD student were some of the best times of my life. The motivation to do engineering was primarily, in our family, we had a number of people who were like engineers, including, my uncle. So that had a great influence. On me. Secondly, during my childhood days, there were not many career options during that time that exists now, primarily in the Indian context. At that time, either you could become an engineer or you would become a doctor. If you are doing well in your studies, then there were like two primary career options. And at that point of time, obviously I had sort of more interest towards the mathematics and the sciences. And since it was a more inclination towards the mathematics, that led me to choose engineering as a career option. Today, for example, however, the situation, as has changed, and there are a large number of career options are there. So you really don't have to choose between, you don't have to toss between engineering or medical. So that was the reason to take engineering. The reason to go for PhD is, after my bachelor's degree, which I did from Gwalior, I, at that point of time, thought that perhaps, we need to learn and study more. And I decided to do MTech at IIT Kanpur. At that point, I had sort of no thought that time to whether, I want to do PhD or not. But when I joined IIT Kanpur as a student, that actually changed my perspective completely. The faculty members that I met in the Department of Electrical Engineering at IIT Kanpur were some of the amazing scholars that I have ever met in life, even today, even as on today, if I have to compare. So when I completed my MTech, of course, during my bachelor's degree, I had developed an interest in communications. So I did my MTech in communications, and I thought that I can pursue my research options. And therefore, after my MTech, I joined the Indian Space Research Organization. But contrary to my expectations, it wasn't carrying out that fundamental research in communications as I had thought. So within 1 year, I quit ISRO and joined back IIT Kanpur for the PhD. And that was basically, I was convinced that it will be difficult for me to find these outstanding scholar teachers anywhere else. And then I decided to do my PhD at IIT Kanpur. I would say that my 5 years at IIT Kanpur as the PhD student were some of the best times of my life. Not only I got an opportunity to meet with some of the outstanding scholar teachers that I have mentioned, but I also got an opportunity to meet with some of the most talented students that I have seen as peers, as my colleagues. So in that sense, I really did not face any great challenges in that sense. My work was mostly theoretical, so it wasn't like typical experimental or systems building. I knew that many of my colleagues or friends in the hostels were struggling with the experimental work because, at that time when there was no internet, there was no email, the communication was only through letters. It was actually far more difficult, and the telephones smartphones were also not widespread, and obviously there were no mobile phones. So it was really very, very difficult to, if your instrument is down in the lab, to get it repaired or get the customer support from the manufacturer. It was really very difficult. Fortunately, I did not have that problem because I was mostly a theoretician that time. I was working mostly in the theory. Although in the last 20 years of my career, I have made a complete shift. I now do a lot of systems building and experimental work. But back during my PhD days, since it was mostly theoretical, I did not face any challenge. As I said, I worked with one of the most outstanding scholar advisor, Professor P.R.K. Rao. So every day talking to him was an enriching experience. You just talk to him, that itself will make your day. So in that sense, I really miss those days, and I really did not have any significant challenge in completing the program. But I do realize that my colleagues or my friends who were doing experimental works, I know that, as a director now, many of the PhD students, I know they come for the experimental work. I can tell them that they cannot even appreciate the difficulties that students at that time in the 90s and 80s were facing. That even, communication was taking 1 week. Even to communicate to the manufacturer that your instrument is down, the manufacturer or the instrument maker will come to know of it after 1 week. Today, it can be communicated in seconds. So that is what I said, that it was only you have to depend on snail mail. So you send a paper, and after you have sent a paper, then you wait for the reviews. The reviews also were coming in a printed format. It was a sort of a long affair to publish the papers. There was some more challenges in getting the papers published in international high quality journals. There was an obvious bias at that point of time because India was not known during 90s to sort of do a state-of-the-art cutting-edge research, and therefore there was this bias when the papers were submitted from India. Obviously, people will think whether it is indeed has any quality or not before even you have read. So threshold for publishing your work in a high impact or high quality journal was much higher at that point of time. But now, once that ecosystem has been put in place, now large number of good researchers are taking place. Time also has shortened. This has enabled Indian researchers to publish it in very high impact journals. But that also has led to a competition now. So, that creates another set of challenges and problems. But during those time, it was indeed extremely difficult. The other thing is that, you can't really simply go to the internet, download a paper and start reading it on the things. You will have to go to the library and take out a journal and read there. Only if you want to sort of think that this is important, then there used to be a photocopying machine in the library. So then, you can get some of those papers photocopied and bring them back to the hostel rooms. So otherwise, the best thing was that you sit in the library and make notes. Okay, so what happened is that when I joined as a faculty at IIT Bombay, as a young faculty member, so that time, in IIT Bombay had many, again, very outstanding research faculty members. So what was happening is that, all the good students of the department were really going and working with these faculty members. And when you join the department, the students don't know you. So obviously no students come to you either for doing PhD or MTech or even the BTech project. So I had to work a little harder way. And one of the things that I did is that, I think I was able to do a reasonable job of teaching and could make an impact in my courses. And that's way slowly, the students started coming to me, and that was my initial period of my career where I was really very, very closely working with the students. A lot of time I was spending in the lab and hand holding and working them. And that continued for about 10 years or so. And then when I started taking up this additional responsibility of administration, first was the head of computer center at IIT Bombay, and then the most I would say, demanding job was the head of electrical engineering department at IIT Bombay, which is one of the largest departments in the institute. Now, and this was in 2012. So by the time, you can say that I have set up the lab properly, had set up good students, have been trained, and there was some kind of I would say, quote unquote, autopilot system was set up in the lab. And it was I would say that I have been really lucky in the sense that the students that I have got have been phenomenally good and outstanding. And only, a small nudging and encouraging them has been enough for these students to work on their own. And in that sense, I have been lucky. And therefore, I could carry out my research activities with these students as well as administrative positions at IIT Bombay, being the head and the dean. But when I came here as the director, I think, as you know, that the director's job is a very full-time and a very demanding job. Therefore, I think I would say that I'm not able to spend that much time as I was able to spend as the dean or head, because as the head or dean, I was maybe spending about 3 to 4 hours or 5 hours as the dean or head office, but remaining, 5-6 hours I was spending in the lab. So, that could be balanced. But now as the director, I'm full-time in the director's office, but I still have a PhD students. Now, I'm spending time only on the weekend, that is Saturdays and Sundays. And that too, since they are in IIT Bombay, I've been holding interactions with them. So I would say that it has been possible for me to balance these primarily because I've been fortunate to have the students who maybe do not need that much of the hand holding. And secondly, I have to work all 7 days a week. So that is, it is not possible otherwise. So I have to work, not only work for 7 days a week, but maybe 12 to 14 hours a day. Then only it is possible that you can interact with your students and as well as, carry out these responsibilities. And it is possible to do so provided you enjoy the work. So if you enjoy interacting with the students, if you enjoy doing your research, and if you enjoy doing your administration job, then you don't count the hours or the days. It just becomes a part of your life. I don't think, that I'm working on Saturday or Sunday or Monday or Tuesday. It just becomes, part of your life. Yeah, I think, my experience in the policy making and the regulatory bodies has been actually quite interesting. And I believe that I have been able to make somewhat lasting contributions in some of the policies. It is very, very important that when you make policies which affect the whole country and the society, and which have in it the underlying technology, like whether it is a telecom policy or whether it is an energy policy, or whether it is an environmental policy, it is extremely important for the technologists to contribute with their knowledge of what is the state of the art in the technology, what are the future roadmaps and possibilities, so that the policy makers, when they make the policy, they make a policy which is robust with respect to the current technological possibilities that exist, and also, they are aware of what is the future research possibilities or what are the future research directions that are happening. So I think it is very, very important. I know that many of the researchers, they are averse to becoming members of such committees or participate mostly, I have actually asked many of my colleagues even to go and attend such meetings, but they are mostly averse because they find sometimes, attending such meetings is a complete waste of their time, because obviously in such meetings, you don't have a deep research discussion. So sometimes, a good researcher will find these meetings and these discussions to be waste of their time. But I feel that it is really very important for a good researcher to make a contributions towards the policy making, which has the underlying technology theme, whether it is telecom or internet or energy or environment or health, whatever.